Overstimulation is the phenomenon I experience most in my life. Immediate access to parasocial media and doom scrolling is the most obvious example. But even when trying to use things in a more relaxed fashion or trying to detox, I find myself very irritated that I'm getting bored. I begin to feel understimulated, when it should just be the baseline, because once upon a time it was. I want to talk specifically about YouTubers today, because one of the most interesting internet activities that I used to partake in a lot as a child has become something very difficult to look at as a result of overstimulation. This is an excuse of mine to fanboy, but also to just talk about objectively how much better it is for the mind to engage with lower stimulation content. Forget shorts, reels, or lunatics like Mr. Beast. Turn rather to someone like Simon. Simon Retro, or Simon as he used to be known, is a kid that fits the bill of what I'd call the return to old YouTube attitude. His niche, so to speak, is various pieces of technology that he finds interesting, and the way he provides information to the viewer is simple and perfect as a result. One of my favorite videos from him is the Ultimate 2000s Media Center PC by HP. The contents of the video stick purely to the scope of the video without any distractions. Sure, there's an ad read, so to speak, for his Patreon, but even outside of that, he doesn't come off as what most people would categorize as a traditional content creator. He's a guy that happens to post on YouTube, and while you know him for his content, you stick around for his personality and personability. What I like most about his videos are both the subject matter and the fact that it's him discussing it. His voice isn't annoying, there's no ridiculous background music, there's no unnecessary edits, everything he discusses is also displayed on screen, and all the information I'd want to be covered is present while not wasting my time getting there. He even provides appropriate context for how he finds himself in certain situations, and how he resolves them. If he changed his method of making videos to something more mainstream and attention-grabbing, I wouldn't be watching Simon anymore, because the person he'd be presenting wouldn't be Simon. His appeal is that he is incredibly stripped down and authentic, and in a world where authenticity is all but dead to the normie, it's nice to find people that still make things you didn't think would be cool sound incredibly cool. On a slightly higher production level, and pretty much only as a result of the background music, is Michael MJD. MJD is a man that covers various software-related subject matter as opposed to the more hardware-focused subjects that Simon discusses. While there is certainly overlap in general video topics, the main draw of MJD, at least for me, is once again the simplicity of his approach. He is not trying to inflate himself as something he isn't, nor is he trying to morph a personality for the camera. He's just a guy that shows people the cool things he's doing in a fashion that backhandedly doubles as a tutorial. I found his channel through the process of ordering a Domino's pizza from a defunct Nintendo Wii channel that was only supposed to have worked in Japan. With fan hacks, however, the deed was fairly straightforward to accomplish. Throughout that process, he simply shows what he needs to be done while maintaining a natural attitude. There are no exaggerated reactions, nor are there any overwhelming elements like strange effects, edits, or obnoxious background music. He's just a guy doing his thing. Even longer videos, like the OS X Windows 8 bundle, maintain this legitimate approach despite being over an hour. There's a distinction I make for myself when relating the contrast of mainstream YouTube to people like Simon and Michael. Content creators are the people who leverage social media into parasocial media. That is to say, they view and utilize their platforms purely as a business and seek to exploit as many trends, tricks, and methods of getting people's attention as physically possible. And while yes, even people like Simon and Michael run businesses since their channels are monetized, people like Simon and Michael are what I refer to as proper YouTubers. They are people who, at the very least, do not make it obvious that their primary goal is money. Yes, titles and thumbnails are still made in such a fashion that people can find them easier to get interested in, but their primary process of presenting information is in a more wholesome and otherwise easier to digest format. For example, compare YouTube's golden boy, Mr. Beast, to someone like Hater's Garage, who also went through a recent rebrand, but I can't remember the original name of his channel now. There are similarities in that thumbnails and video titling styles are rather personalized. Hater's Garage likes his font and underscores, and it helps him stand out in the same way that Mr. Beast has his own method of naming and marketing his videos. They're even similar in the way information is introduced and presented over the course of the video. The subject matter is discussed briefly in the intro, and then the meat and potatoes, so to speak, make up the rest of the video. But unlike Mr. Beast, Hater's Garage is a far more tangibly human experience. He works on cars and shows what he's doing in a manner that makes sense to the audience, while also talking about what he's doing when necessary. Mr. Beast's videos are like watching reality TV. Presentation that feels highly scripted, flow that maintains a particular flavor of inconsistency to give people a FOMO feeling if they click off of a particular hook, and scenarios that a relatively normal person simply will not get to experience. The hook of MrBeast's videos lie in the fantastical element of them, whereas Hater's Garage and his videos' appeal lie in the grounded reality of the position he's in and the relatability it can provide to people that look much more like him than Mr. Donaldson. Something else I find strange about modern YouTube are the colors. Take a look at these thumbnails by MrBeast. The colors are highly saturated. Look at the way human skin looks on the thumbnails as opposed to the video itself. It makes MrBeast look like plastic. There's even color correction on the videos themselves, presenting the scenery as far more captivating than it probably is. But then look at Hater's Garage, Michael MJD, or Simon. The images on the thumbnail look ripped right out of the video with text slapped on them. This works incredibly well at giving the viewer the impression of unfiltered legitimacy. The video is about the Dodge Charger 2.2, the thumbnail is a Dodge Charger 2.2. The starting minutes of the video are right where the thumbnail is located too. If Michael MJD is talking about a prison Android tablet, it's right there in the beginning, and he just goes from there. If Simon's talking about some cool VCR, the cool VCR is right there for the entirety of the video. There's no edit that makes the subject of the video any flashier or potentially more interesting than it needs to be. What you see, quite simply, is what you get. It is honest at its core. It doesn't need to present itself as anything too particularly special. Editing styles are notably simple with the three guys I've mentioned, but even the videos and channels that appear to take themselves more seriously utilize editing tricks that are simply easier to intake. Take, for example, FastMiner07. He edits his background footage typically by cutting into new parts every sentence or half sentence, which tends to be common practice with people in his genre. It keeps the viewer's attention on the visuals while also not being incredibly overwhelming. On an arguably more professional level, a guy like Summoning Salt has evolved from a very simple display of speedruns with his own graphics being up on display whenever relevant, to many more custom graphics with a similar editing style in terms of gameplay footage. Guys like Michael MJD, Simon, or Hater's Garage don't typically display things like gameplay a lot, so their footage is edited per relevance in a fashion that suits the IRL aspect of the video. Summoning Salt has also changed his narration style quite considerably over the years. He went from sounding more laid-back and script-ready to much more actionable and invested in his words. He's also known for particular types of background music that sit the viewer quite comfortably in the vibe he attempts to portray. While guys like FastMiner07 will use background music from the games he discusses, Summoning Salt chooses music that suits the retro vibe overall, allowing his videos to be generally acceptable and easy to introduce to as many people as possible. Compare these styles once again to MrBeast, where aspect changes every 10 seconds and can't keep a consistent and straightforward pace. To conclude my thoughts, this isn't a hit piece on MrBeast. Rather, the distillation of my thoughts are meant to explain how returning to a baseline level of stimulation while watching YouTube is probably the best way to go forward in an age where everything is trying to trigger our dopamine receptors so persistently. YouTubers like FastMiner07, Hater's Garage, Simon Retro, Michael MJD, and Summoning Salt all share distinct characteristics of what I'd refer to now as understimulating content. There are so many videos made now where people are constantly trying to vie for people's attention, bringing over many short-form content tactics and invading a space that used to be otherwise mild entertainment akin to a cool TV show. Even rewatching old Markiplier videos, it's obvious that he's trying to keep the viewer's attention by always having something to talk about. And if he doesn't, he's still trying to be entertaining in the way he knew how to be at the time. What I've come to learn is that, in reality, people don't need hypersaturated colors, quick jump cuts all the time, text flashing on the screen in particular ways, or exaggerated voices to be entertained. If someone's brain has devolved to that point, they should be reintroduced to more mild-mannered and frankly more humane forms of entertainment. And all the people I've listed today, while part of certain niches and hobbies that aren't to everyone's liking, are a perfect example of this type of content. I see this sort of thing get more and more popular with each year, where people migrate to content that serves the human mind much more positively, leaving the bots of dead internet to reside in what so-called trend experts have referred to as optimized content. What I hope to see in the future is more people, myself included, reform the internet and its entertainment medium into something that, once again, is far more tolerable to ingest without forming a dopamine addiction so quickly. Even in more broad spheres like music, people like Ola England provide videos that, compared to MrBeast's form of presentation, present themselves as though you're practically living with the guy. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that's what YouTube in particular should be like, for indeed it once was like this overall. Really, the moral of this video is that people, especially people that didn't buy into the dopamine addiction cycle wholesale, will eventually snap back to what YouTube once started as, a place where you could broadcast yourself. When I watch Simon, Michael, Hater's Garage, Fastminer07, or Summoning Salt, I don't think to myself, oh yeah, another piece of obscure hardware has a video I'll watch, or, ah, a car repair video, or, oh yeah, gaming speedruns. I watch those channels for the people. Yes, the hobbies I enjoy that they provide entertainment to me with is the hook, but it's very much one of those cases where I click for the video and stay for the man behind it. I'm excited when I see my subscription feed light up with notifications that Summoning Salt, Ola England, Michael MJD, or those kinds of guys upload. It makes my subscription to them worth it. If they were just some other guy that didn't provide a more human element to their videos, they would just be some other guy, and I wouldn't care. I'd never subscribe, I'd never browse their channel for more, and I'd treat their videos as though I was doom scrolling, something easily forgettable and passively consumable. And as far as I know, I don't think anybody that posts on this website wants to be remembered as that. In the end, I just hope more people broadcast themselves. I'm trying to do that with this video and by sharing my perspective on the subcultural shift I've taken part in, and I hope more people break free from the addictions the internet attempts to cultivate.